The New York Knicks, buy, sell, or hold?
I would like you to start because I feel like there's a passionate take coming.
Is common sense considered an impassioned take?
I
Then
don't
maybe
know.
it's sell. And look, the
Yeah.
report came out. Windhorst went on television and said that Burks, Kemba are all available. Evan Fournier is, of course. Evan Fournier is available.
No,
You
you
don't
don't
say.
say.
Here's my issue. He left off a veteran, and he should be the veteran that you're most aggressively trying to move, and that is Julius Randle. He's been so bad. And I'm not going to make an excuse for myself, but I did vow earlier this season, I'm not going to be as afraid because I really am not doing this for hot takes. But I can't conform to hive mind as much because even after Julius Randle had a great year last season, I kind of talked myself into his extension being a good move, even though I was uneasy about it due to how much of an outlier the previous year was. I understood the logic. And it was, if you hit on this deal, it's so below true max money that this gives you a bunch of options to build out your team. When I knew and talked about how the Knicks were probably going to regress and how having Julius Randle sort of complicates the development of everyone else. We've now seen it with Obi Toppin, and Tibbs' just refusal to play him. You have so many veterans, and we did say this on this podcast. I think you and we did offseason grades. Adam and I said this a bunch. They went at least one too many moves deep into the all offense spectrum, knowing that their defense, like trusting their defensive performance last year too much. And so now looking at what's happened this season, RJ Barrett has shined when given more opportunity. You've gotten Quentin Grimes into the rotation recently. Obi Toppin is not playing enough. Oh, and hey, you suck as a team. You suck. I get what the logic was over the offseason, but you suck. And it's time to actually, and it's been time for a while, like let's do, if you're the Knicks, the real reboot so that you can actually maybe play Cam Reddish, who you gave up a first round pick for. And I know he was dealing with the injury and he's a new player, so maybe they work him in a little bit over the All-Star break, but he is averaging over the course of his first 4 appearances 8 minutes per game. If that's on Tibbs, there needs to be better communication between Tibbs and the front office. You don't just give up a first round pick for a guy who your coach is not going to play. And so I'm very much, and this is now where I alluded to this before we went on the podcast and you were intrigued. If I am the Knicks, I am calling the Lakers and I'm offering Julius Randle, Evan Fournier, and Kemba Walker you can do it for Russell Westbrook straight up, but if they need you to take back Kendrick Nunn or a couple of their minimum guys, like Kemp Bazemore, DeAndre Jordan, whatever, and I am doing that deal, maybe they need to include their first round pick in 2027 or a swap, but give me the year of Westbrook's salary against the entire Julius Randle extension and 2 more guaranteed years of Evan Fournier. And I'm not boarding the cap space bandwagon. Yes, your books are cleaner sooner because Russ, he either comes off the books after next season. Maybe you broker a buyout because you're not planning on being super good. Maybe it's just easier to, because you actually have so many assets, his salary is so large that it's tough to move as an expiring. But if you're just attaching it to a shit ton of picks, yeah, that'll open up avenues for you as well. I don't think it damages your ability to go out and make a huge move if you want. But the main point or the main benefit is there's just more flexibility there. There's more room for Emmanuel quickly because you don't have to play Russ, but there's definitely more room for Toppin in the rotation. It's easier to fit in Quentin Grimes. It's easier to highlight RJ Barrett's role. It's easier to test out Cam Reddish because Julius Randle isn't there soaking up touches where he's just burning like double-digit seconds off the shot clock, going literally absolutely fucking nowhere with the ball. And I talked to someone about the framework of this trade, and I know Bobby Marks proposed something similar on the low post. I promise that this was floating about my mind before listening to that, and it's different from what he was proposing. He said, I think it was Kemba, Fournier, and someone else for Russ and that first round pick. If I'm the Knicks, I don't even know if I need that first round pick. Maybe offer me your swap in 2026 or something. But if you can get the first round pick, that's even more of a benefit to do it, because if you are the Lakers, Julius Randle could kind of help you. Evan Fournier, his shooting, and then I don't even want to call it secondary, but super tertiary dribbling helps you. And I think Kemba's a better fit for that team, even as much as he struggled to stay healthy or struggled at times this season with the Knicks. He's a better fit for that roster than Russell Westbrook is ever going to be. And that's where I'm at with the Knicks, though, is that the Julius Randle extension was a big-ass mistake. And now you just have this huge, and good for Julius Randle for getting paid. He had a real All-NBA campaign last year, regardless of whether you think he deserved to be on the second team. I want all the players to get paid, but the Knicks now have this huge financial stain on their books. And he's also someone who dictates how everyone around him is playing. When you're looking at, they've gotten RJ Barrett more on-ball reps, but like, how are you going to sufficiently develop Obi Toppin when Tibbs doesn't want to play them together? Is it fire Tibbs and so another coach can do something different with this roster? I guess I'm open to it, but I'd rather see them. And it's not just Randle and Fournier. Like, if you can get something for Burks, Noel, even Derrick Rose, he's injured right now. None of the veterans should be untouched. Even Mitchell Robinson, just going into a free agency. We need to see, if I'm the Knicks, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, IQ, Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin. Like, I don't know if it needs to be a wholesale rebuild, but this is not, you have consigned yourself to sub mediocrity at this point. It's not even mediocrity. And short of RJ Barrett just blossoming into a top 10 player in the NBA while Julius Randle's still on this deal, it's just tough to find a path beyond stripping it down and sucking up probably let's call it a tough or not easygoing year next season. Just any sort of real long-term promise with this roster.
So I have the Knicks as a seller. I think I can't get there on Westbrook with you, just because I understand the thinking of like, this doesn't work.
I was going to say, can you do it with John Wall? But like, I don't know why the Rockets want to have Randle or Fournier on their team. It works with the Lakers because they might actually want to have those guys.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I gotta explore less drastic options to get off the Randle money than Westbrook.
1 year of Westbrook.
1 year of Westbrook. I think the issue I have with that. So I agree. Randle, as I was talking about Sabonis, Randle's another example of like a ceiling setter. Like, if he is on your team, he has a major role, and it's going to put a cap on your team's quality. Like, that's just
unless he's
all there is
shooting
to
a billion % on step
unless he shoots 40% from three after, and that basically Randle has turned back into the player that he kind of always was, except for last year. With like, that's an oversimplification, but that's kind of what we're looking at. I think I'm hesitant, because if the point of this is to let Barrett, and to a lesser extent Reddish and Grimes, and quickly kind of spread their wings, like, if you're actually going to put Westbrook on the floor, there's like no wing spreading that's going to happen, because Westbrook just determines everything that happens on the court, and nobody else gets any shine. That's just how it's always gone. So unless you're going to buy him out for like an insane amount, that's tough. So I'm with you that this is a seller. Everything regressed that we thought would. Like, opponents quit missing 2 out of every 3 threes they took, and Randle quit making every 3. Like, so this was foreseeable. It's too bad that it played out kind of how so many people thought it might. But I got to explore less drastic options to move off of Randle, and to a less. So I think someone like Walker is much more likely to be moved, just because Randle's tougher. And Robinson, I think, actually is low key like pretty likely to move, just because there should be a lot of suitors for him at that number. And I also think I love the Reddish play. Like, I think, to me, that was indicative of, first of all, like, Knox was not going to do anything. So if I just have no problem with that. But that was indicative of, I think, the Knicks being sort of realistic of, like, we're not going to go trade for a veteran. We're going to try to get, maybe another bite at the superstar wing, 4 years from now, Apple. Not to say Reddish has a real serious chance of that, but there's some chance. So I like that move. I think that's the type of thing they should be exploring. I can't wait to hear responses on on your Westbrook move, though. That's good for you, though, finding another team to potentially take him on. Maybe it was 15 in 5 years. Is that what it would be?
What's that? 15 in 5 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be wild. It'd be 15 in 4 years if he got traded mid-season, right?
That's true.
I get the last thing I'll say is I get the less drastic measure point. I just don't know what that is to move Randle. The one that I had thought about was Eric Bledsoe and Serge Ibaka for Randle, and then something that either they could get Kemba back, and then Randle in theory helps you next season when you have Kawhi and Paul George as a sort of another on-ball outlet, and maybe you trust your defense enough to also house Randle in there. And then if you're the Clippers, you can save some tax money this season by dealing with the Knicks. So there was that route. I just don't, with the Paul George injury now combined with the Kawhi Leonard injury, I don't know if they would be as interested in having a move like that this season. I thought Randle was also someone who really helped you while Kawhi was out as just another ball handler.
I got another idea for you. They should just trade him to the Kings for Harrison Barnes straight up, because the Kings would be like, well, we got an All NBA guy. That's cool. We'll do that. We got to win now. And Barnes is probably, he might be more helpful. At least he wouldn't be, dominating possessions. Would you do that?
I would do that. I wouldn't do that if I was the Kings.
Yeah, but the Kings will do anything. You don't know what the Kings are going to do.
Who was your most likely player to get traded for the Knicks?
I think I'll just say Walker, but I'm tempted to. Robinson's in there too for me. But I think someone, I think someone will decide that Walker can be at least like a six man or something.
I want to say Burks because they should move him when his value is this high, but they'll probably want to keep him because they'll fancy themselves a top 3 team next year that needs Alec Burks. I'm gonna say Kemba too as well. I could see it being like Robinson a little bit, but yeah, but just beyond that, it's the answer to this question should be Fournier or Randle. Like that should be an active thing that they are trying to do. It's not going to be because that's just not how the Knicks are thinking clearly. And the last thing I'll push back is I don't think the Reddish trade was a good idea.
Really?
Because you're one not playing him, and I still think that first round pick has more value in trade talks than someone who is going to need more money after next year. If you're planning on paying him, so now you've just made yourself a lot more expensive with Barrett and Reddish being extension eligible at the same time. You've already paid Julius Randle, gave Fournier has 2 more guaranteed years after this one. So that is something to monitor too. I'll understand it if they actually invest court time in him, and it needs to happen this season. Otherwise, don't trade for Reddish in the middle of the year. You wait.
I like the home run swing. That might be a strikeout. I like that on the margins. That's all.